Hey everyone, in this video I wanted to take a step back and talk about a site called Magistrula. Now if you've watched my videos, you've heard me mention Magistrula a lot, and I don't own the site. Again, it's not mine. I just think it's a really powerful tool and one that I'd encourage everyone, students, teachers, whoever's trying to learn Latin or teach it. It's something that we should be using because it's a free site. It's a very powerful tool, and it's really the only one I can think of that really lets you practice your Latin and improve it at home, right? Particularly if you're a student. So in this video, I just wanted to walk you through how you can use it and take advantage of what's here and how awesome of a site that it actually is. Now, since I don't own it, I don't want to show you like a video of me using the site just in case. Again, it's not mine, so I just want to kind of be respectful of that. But I'll show you some screenshots from the site just so you can get a sense of what it is and how to use it. So the first question is, what is Magistrula? So if you've never been there, I'd encourage you to go check it out. It's magistrula.com. This is a site that was created by a Latin teacher, I believe. And it's fully coded by her, and it's really, really cool. It has a lot of different things you can do. So if you go to Magistrula, this is what the main page looks like. And you notice there's a bunch of different things happening here. But the first question is really like, what can you do with it? So on the right-hand side, the first thing you'll see is this. It says activities. And you see things like, charts. They have forms, sentences. And if you're curious what these are, they're all different ways to practice your Latin. And there's a little explanation in the parentheses too. So like the charts, you can practice your forms, right? Like basically filling out a chart, exactly what it sounds. Sounds like the forms, you can do out of order forms, different pieces of your Latin. And the sentences is really about translation. So the rest of it, I'll be honest, the bottom five here, zombie games, lacuna, I haven't used a lot, and I'm not overly familiar with. I don't use them in class. I really stick to the first three, but there are other pieces that you can check out. The zombie game, I think is something that a lot of students use. So feel free to check it out on your own. It's just something I can't speak to because I don't use it. But I wanted to show you at least those first three and how you can use them. So if you were to hit on that first one that says charts, what you're going to get is a screen that looks like this that can will allow you to practice two things, either noun endings or verb conjugation. So if you're looking at it, the second arrow here right in the middle, you'll see that it says decline. That's a drop-down menu. So if you were to click on the word decline, you can switch between decline and conjugate. There's a third one called synopsis. If you're interested, feel free to check that out too. But basically, decline is noun endings and conjugate is verb endings. So if we're sticking with noun ending practice, you would want to hit decline. And up at the top, you're going to see all these check boxes. So you can basically customize Magistrula to practice certain noun endings. So maybe you're at the beginning of your Latin career and you just want to see first declension nouns, go for it. You can just hit that first box. If you've seen second declension, you can choose between just doing masculine and feminine second declension or including second declension neuter, right? Maybe you specifically want to practice your neuters and not the other. Just click the checkbox that fits you. And at the top, there's one to do all of second declension. The same with third I stem, fourth, fifth. These are all ways to kind of make Magistrula give you the endings you really want to focus on and practice. So if you're a student and you're not sure what to pick, just go with the basics or ask your teacher, not a big deal. If you're a teacher, of course, you can customize this and send it to your students, but it's a really powerful tool to use. And if you really want to get even more in depth, underneath, you can see it says all cases. So basically those those six check boxes there with black writing, you can do just nominative case, genitive, dative, any of the cases you want. So this would let you customize it. I know for me, I use the Road to Latin textbook and they don't give you all the cases at once. So this lets me customize it for my students and say, okay, in this Magistrula, we're just doing first declension, nominative, singular, or we're going to do just nominative and accusative. And I can kind of give them different cases as they go. This is the same thing you can do. So if you're a student and you just want to practice specific cases, go for it. But when you're ready, what you want to do is just hit the begin button over to the right and it'll start up for you. So if you were to do that, you'd see a screen like this. So the thing I'd recommend you do is hit vocab help. If you hit that vocab help button, it expands the dictionary entry of the word. In this case, it's showing me the word culpa, which means fault. If you don't hit vocab help, it'll just say culpa. If you hit vocab help, it'll give you all the different pieces. So culpa, culpi, f dot, fault. So it's telling you the genitive singular, so you know it's a first declension noun, the gender, and the English translation. Okay. Then underneath, you're seeing here, you can fill in the singular and plural endings, right? So if you do that, you just start typing. So right here on this screen, you can see I did the first three. You have culpa, culpi, culpi, and you can keep going down the line. When you feel like you've got it, all filled out and ready to go, you just hit the submit button and it'll tell you whether you got it right or wrong. So here, Magistrula is telling me I got the first three right and the rest of them wrong because I didn't fill anything in, right? So the blank is telling me that I left it blank. Over to the right, the red is telling me what it should have looked like. So this will help you practice and get some feedback on whether you're doing it correctly. This is what makes Magistrula such a powerful tool. If you fill it out and do it, you don't have to guess, did I get it wrong? It'll instantly tell you whether you got it right or wrong. And when you're ready for another one, just hit begin right up at the top, and it'll spit out a new noun for you. You can do this over and over and over again, hundreds of times, as many as you need to. It'll always give you different nouns, right? It'll start repeating eventually, but you can practice this literally thousands of times until you feel comfortable with it. The other thing that's pretty cool about Magistrula is at the bottom, particularly if you're logged in, it'll track and show you how you're doing on this exercise. So it'll show you at the bottom all the different questions you attempted and if you got them right or wrong. That way you can kind of keep track of how you're doing it and watch your progress grow. If you're a teacher, that's particularly important because you can track your students' progress. So again, just a really cool thing you can do with it. The other thing I mentioned you could do is verb conjugation. So back to this screen, this is if you just hit that charts button. If I flip, you can see the bottom arrow here to conjugate, right? That drop-down menu I mentioned before. If it's not on decline, you flip it to conjugate. Now I'm dealing with verbs. And it's similar. Up at the top, I have a new set of checkboxes so I can kind of customize this however I want. So you can play around with the mood, right? Indicative or subjunctive, the tenses, voice. You can do regular verbs, irregular, whatever. You can also pick, what subjects you want to see. So maybe you just want to work on the first person singular. You can do ego, right? Whatever it is. There's a lot of customization, and it lets you work on your verb conjugation. Again, this is really important if you're like, man, I just want to work on perfect tense or imperfect tense, or maybe you want to work on all of them, or maybe you just want to work on passive voice or deponents. You have a lot of flexibility on what you see with Magistrula, which is what makes it so great. So if I were to check all the ones I want to practice and hit, submit or begin rather, now I'd see this screen, right? So this is an example of what you might see. So the first thing you want to hit is that vocab help button. Again, it'll take the verb and expand it and give you all four principal parts, which is really important. So this verb I had in this example is sentire, to feel, right, or to realize. And it's giving me all the four principal parts. To the right where it says mood, it's telling me that I have an indicative noun, right? If I was practicing my subjunctive, it would say S-U-B-J. The tense is present, right? P-R-E-S is telling me present tense, and the voice is active. So now I know I'm taking this verb, I'm doing the active voice, present tense, indicative mood, and I can fill it out. So it's the same thing. I just start typing in the boxes below, right? And again, it's going I, you, he, she, it, we, you, all, they, right? Ego, tu, ille, and down the line. And you're also giving your English translation. So when I fill it out, you can see here I started filling it out. I start writing sentio, senti, sentit down the line. And when you hit submit, it'll tell you if you got it right or wrong. So again, my first three were right. The rest I didn't fill in. And Magistrula is telling me what the correct answer should have been. The English is going to right off to the right. And again, it doesn't have to be perfect. So Magistrula uses that sort of Southern y'all, which I think if I remember reading right, the teacher who made this might have been from the South. I could be wrong, but I always like that it says y'all there for second person plural. If you had written you all realize, it might tell you you're wrong, you're not. So the only one thing about Magistrula is you need to get an answer that perfectly matches, the answer that's in Magistrula. Otherwise, it might say you're wrong. So just take a look and make sure that you're not actually correct when it's saying, hey, you got this wrong. Sometimes it's just a little, your wording might throw you off. But again, this is a really good way to practice your verb conjugation. I give this to my students every week, different versions of Magistrula, and this is their homework, right? Just practicing on your own. And you could do this too. You can set this up however you want. If you want to practice present tense, maybe passive voice, active voice, whatever, set Magistrula and go, and you can literally do hundreds of these, and it'll spit out a new verb every single time, and just let you practice it over and over again. You can, like I said, customize the conjugations. Maybe you just want first or second or third, whatever it is. Magistrula has that flexibility. So it's a really, really powerful way to practice your verb conjugation. The next thing you want to do, or the last thing I want to show you here, if we're back to that activities chart, and I guess this is the second piece, there's one more I'll show you after, is where it says sentences. So the first part I like to do for homework, letting my students practice noun endings and verb endings, but the real thing that I enjoy is sentences, right? This is where it'll give you English sentences and you're typing out a translation, right? Or rather, it'll give you Latin sentences or English, actually. You can customize it, I'll show you. And you're just translating, right? So this is a really good way to just translate a bunch of random stuff. So when you click on sentences, you see this. So the first thing you're going to see is a bunch of checkboxes here. So you can customize it to show you different things. So the first four are all cases, right? So nominative, accusative, ablative, dative. You can click these. Go for it. And as you learn new grammar, it probably will show up here. You can kind of add to it as you go. So when you learn about, hic and ille and the demonstratives, you can click that box. If you're not sure and you're a student, have a teacher help you with this. But if you feel confident, like, oh yeah, I want to work on, genitive case, you just click that checkbox and you go. Once you hit continue, you're going to see a screen that looks like this. For every one of those checkboxes you just clicked on, it breaks it down even further. So let's say you hit the one that said basic uses of nominative, accusative, and ablative case. Now you can even kind of make it more customized by clicking on which ones you want. So maybe you want just the nominative subjects, right? You don't want predicates. Maybe you want just direct objects. Maybe you want to include prepositional phrases. You can customize it to whatever you've learned, right? Or maybe you want to do prepositional phrases, but you only want to work on ablative. Whatever it is, you click the box of the grammar you know or you want to work on, and Magistrula will spit that out to you. So once you've got it all set up and you're ready to go, at the very bottom, you can pick what nouns and verbs you want to look at. So this is important too. Maybe you want to practice your basic uses of nominative case, but you only want to use present tense verbs, right? Or you only want to use imperfect or present and imperfect, whatever. You can customize what tenses you want to use. You're seeing that there. The conjugations of the tenses you're going to use. What declensions you want to use for nouns, whether you want singular or plural, whether you want irregulars, all of this, gender, you can customize all of it before you hit begin. The other thing you can do is at the top of the screenshot you can see, you can customize it or toggle it, I guess, between Latin to English or English to Latin. So you have that flexibility. Maybe you want to work on your Latin, and you want it to give you English sentences and you write in Latin. Just flip it around, right? Have fun with it. There's a lot of ways you can customize it, but whenever you're ready, you hit begin. And what you're going to see is a screen like this, right? So the sentence is sort of in the white box underneath where it says vos paravistis, blah, blah, blah. That's my sentence. When I hit VOC at the top, vocab, it'll give me this vocab box, which you're seeing the gray box on top. These are all the vocab words with their definitions and all the different sort of pieces to them, right? So principal parts for verbs, the dictionary entry for nouns and adjectives. This is really useful, so you don't have to go digging in a dictionary when you use Magistrula. You can just use its own vocab tool. So this is what you want to be working on. In the box at the top, that blue box, that's where you type your answer. So when you have your answer in, you hit submit, and it'll show you what you see at the bottom. So I left it blank. So you can see at the bottom it says you, that was my answer, and it's a bunch of dashes because I didn't answer it. Then it's giving you what the correct answer would have been. So it's telling you could have written either y'all prepared yourselves against the madness of the consuls, or you could say the second option, and this is because it's dealing with participles. You could either say the consuls about to attack or the consuls who were about to attack. It's telling you both of these things are right. And the very bottom, that star or diamond, is telling you that the grammar point this was working on was future active participles. So it's kind of giving you a hint as to what was going on here, right? And that's what you're seeing with the word appugnaturarum there, or appugnaturorum rather. It's a future participle, right? Future active participle. So it's giving you a lot of feedback on what's going on. The sentence translation is one of the best tools, I think, in my opinion, for Magistrula, because it can give you a lot of work on a bunch of different things all in one sentence. If you're using a textbook, maybe you want some practice problems beyond the story. I can say for me, using Road to Latin, it doesn't really have a ton of grammar, like sort of sentences. And I also don't love those because you only get maybe 10 in a chapter. You can usually look up the answers online pretty easily. So there's a hit or miss on whether or not they're useful. I like to use Magistrula because it's always random. So all of my students are doing different sentences, and they can keep doing as many as they need to until they feel confident. So again, it's a really powerful tool, and that feedback is what I really like, that instantaneous feedback with some explanations, right? It's not just giving you the right answers, telling you what you were working on, okay? So again, if you do a bunch of these, it'll track at the bottom as you go, right? You'll notice this one's called number 1. It's because it's the first one I tried. If I keep going and hit begin again, it'll give me number 2, number 3, and it keeps track of it all below. So if you're a student, you can see how you've been doing and kind of track your progress. If you're a teacher and you assign this to a student, you can see all the work that they did. So again, if you're in a Magistrula class, your teacher can look at all the answers you did and kind of check your homework in that way. Again, it's just that feedback is really, really useful. The last thing I wanted to show you is the forms practice one. So if you were to click on forms, again, this is sort of on the main page in that activities box. If you hit forms, it gives you something that looks like this, right? So you're going to see a section where you're picking, what form you want to practice. I hit relative pronouns. When you click on it, it opens up and expands it. So now you can see like what exactly in relative pronouns do you want to work on. You're seeing all these check boxes. You just, again, click the ones that you want to work on. Sometimes you can see things like for instance, subjunctive is particularly useful here, like just I want to work just on oot clauses or whatever. You can kind of customize what you want to do. Again, here I hit relative pronoun practice. When I hit begin, it looks like this, right? So it's just giving me relative pronouns, urbase quae. And it's telling me that the answer is the city's which, and it gives you the vocab help, and you just kind of work it through. The relative pronoun here is quae. It's just sort of targeting the grammar in a more specific way. So here I can work on translations, but not full sentences. I'm just looking at relative pronouns. The forms one, again, is a nice way to practice some of the bigger parts of the grammar. Maybe you don't want to have a full sentence. You just want to work on a specific thing. Magistrula will let you do that. So the other thing I wanted to show you, the last thing rather, is for teachers. So a lot of this has been really geared towards students. If you're trying to learn Latin, obviously you can use Magistrula, and you can sign in and make an account. It's free. All you need is an email address. But I think what it's really great for is for teachers. You can sign up as a teacher, and when you do it, you get a slightly different screen. So if you're not logged in, at the top, you'll see home, mini-miss, which I think is the doll you're looking at, and where it says Latin, like different things you can kind of work on. When you're logged in, it changes and it looks like this. You get a tab up top that says My Stuff. So when you click on My Stuff, now you can see a bunch of different things. This happens to be mine. So it's showing me my classes, right? So this is showing me all the assignments that I gave out for my particular classes. You can see in the chart down below, right? I can add an assignment, edit an assignment. I could add students, add a class. What I like to do at the beginning of the year is make classes for every class I teach. When you do that, it'll give you a link where your students can log in and join the class. And then all the stuff I assign to them, it gets pushed out in one place. It sort of works like Google Classroom in that sense, right? So all a student would need to do is log into their account. They can see the homework. I just named the assignment. You can see here I had September 9th homework, whatever, and it's telling me what class it was for. So my Latin 2 class, period 1, it says 9 homework. It's telling me how many kids attempted it over to the right. It says 7 attempted it, 7 completed. If I were to click on that completed 7 out of 7, it would show me all their names. I could see the ones that they did and get all that feedback. It lets me grade them very quickly. And this is where I can keep all my assignments. And where it says, see assignments for, it says all classes. If I were to click on that, I can target specific classes and find it very easily. Again, the format is very easy. It lets you put all your homeworks in one place and kind of track as you go. So if you're a teacher, this is a really valuable tool. I can set up my students. I can send them homework. I can track their progress. I can see who did it, who didn't, and kind of look at how they're doing at any moment and give them feedback. So again, I don't own Magistrula. I'm just a very big fan, and I like to promote it whenever I can just because I think it's such an awesome tool that was kind of given to us, and there's really nothing like it. So this saves us a lot of time. It lets you work, if you're a student, it lets you work on your Latin at home and get a lot of feedback and repetition. If you're a teacher, it's incredibly valuable for assigning homework, things like that. So hopefully this video gave you a sense of what you can do with it. I'd encourage you to look it up on your own, right? Go support the cause, have fun with it. If you're a student, go practice with it. If you're a teacher, consider using it in your classes. It's a really valuable tool. But again, if you have any questions at all, I am not a Magistrula expert. As you can see here, there's a lot of parts of the site that I don't use, but I'd be happy to help you on the pieces that I do, and send you different things or assignments, whatever it is you need. Just put it in the comments below and I'll help you. And if you're using my Road to Latin textbook, you should be familiar with this. You'll see at the bottom of every chapter, I've given different Magistrula exercises that kind of line up with that chapter. Feel free to use them if you're actually using that textbook. And whatever textbook you're using, just use Magistrula anyway, right? It's a really good way to practice and get that feedback. Good luck with it. Let me know if you need anything.